Welcome back to NBCLX. I'm Tabitha Lipkin. A team of millennial women created the Georgia 55 Project. Now, this is a citizens group aiming to make voting easy, fun, and delicious by raising awareness and educating Georgians about early and absentee voting. They are working to make voting accessible to those in Atlanta through food-centric outreach, with a particular focus on under-resourced communities on Atlanta's South Side. And here to talk about Georgia 55 Project is Melody Bray. First, thank you so much for taking the time to be here, Melody. Why was it important for your team to work on making voting more accessible to those in Atlanta, particularly the South Side?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us. It was just really evident to us in June at the June primary that there was going to be an issue with voter access coming in November. And when speaking to one another after the primary, we had no other choice but to band together and figure out how to increase access for all Metro Atlanta Georgians, but in particular, those who are usually in an under-resourced area of town, which in Atlanta is our south side of town. We wanted to do anything we could to make sure that people had all the information they need to find where their poll is, polling times, who's on the ballot, what these roles are, whatever they need to make themselves feel comfortable in the ballot box.
Now, how does one make voting fun, easy, and delicious?
So we're in the South, and that is a place where food and hospitality is how we do things around here. And we felt like there was no reason not to apply that to the voting context. So for us, that meant that we partnered with community food banks to provide absentee ballot request forms in our food boxes. We showed up at MARTA farmers markets. MARTA is our public transit system here, so that people could, on their way to and from their jobs, be able to get access to fresh food as well as fresh voter information. And we partnered with restaurants around town throughout the early voting period to provide pop-ups where people, when they're waiting for their takeout in these COVID times, to be able to have conversations about voting. But also, they're going to be supporting voters while they're in line on Election Day. We're going to be bringing restaurants straight to the voters when they're standing in those lines. It's a little less of a line. It feels a little less of a line when you've got delicious pizza or sliders or, you know, some sort of cake or something while you're waiting.
How many people do you estimate that you've actually been able to connect with?
So on all of our, we look at it as a voting season as opposed to election day. So from the top of our election season of absentee ballots up until voting day, election day, we estimate will probably reach about between 90 and 95,000 voters here in Atlanta.
Incredible. And what has been the response so far, and what do you and your team still feel needs to be done?
The response so far has been so encouraging. People are really wanting to know how to be a better citizen, how to be more informed, and just want access. So everyone has really accepted us with open arms. What we see that needs to happen is that we, as not just Atlanta, but we would say that this is throughout the state of Georgia, there needs to be a leveling of the playing field for people to be able to access voter information. That's everything from the fact that our public transit system right now is not going to be running on a full schedule on Election Day. So that means that people who don't have their own cars might have more trouble getting to the ballot box. Sure. That also means, you know, things like the elderly who have issues of transportation as well. How do they get there in the COVID time? Yeah. So all of those things add to just putting these blocks in front of individuals as they try to vote. We think that the more people who vote, the better off we are as a society to allow all of our voices to be heard.
Now, what will you and your team do after the election is over?
That's a fantastic question. We have been blessed to have some advisors at Emory's Goizueta Business School. They're advising us and helping us figure out what our future could look like. But it's not just about this election right now. It's about becoming more informed citizens as we move forward. So we see ourselves pushing people to those runoff elections that nobody ever talks about or thinks of, or those down ballot elections that when you're talking about your city councilman and your school board members that affect your day to day, truly, we want people to be engaged in those processes as well, not just every 4 years for a presidential election.
Local elections are just as important, if not more important, right?
If
Lily?
not more.
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you so much for joining us here on NBCLX. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it too. And get out and vote.